Hey there. My name is Max, and I'm 20 years old, and this video is going to be about mel- mental illness, my struggles, my personal struggles with mental illness and catharsis, mostly. I'll probably be broaching several topics as this goes on, but the first two main elements that I really want to try and talk about the most are my personal mental illness and how talking about the things that I go through on a daily basis helps with purging these negative feelings that I have, for lack of a better term. So I have been formally diagnosed with schizophrenia and ADHD symptoms, and I mean that the diagnosis remains unclear. It's, my doctor signed a bill saying that I am unable to work for the next 12 months, a little while back, and it was under the guise of schizophrenia. And to get back where I was initially trying to go, what I mean by that particular gesture is that it's very unclear what I have. I consider myself to be a very complex case, and that seems to be the case for my psychiatrist as well. Not complex as in difficult to deal with, but as in multi-layered, I don't know how to say it, but it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff for a psychiatrist to go through, and I'm acutely aware of the acutely aware is not exactly the most apt way to say it. I'll try and rephrase. I am extremely well versed on psychiatry and pathopsychology. Is it pathopsychology? I'm not sure, because I'm French, and pathopsychology and psychopathology, it's pathopsychology. The words are basically, pathopsychology. Okay, exactly, that's it. Because in French, it's psychopathologie and not psychopathology. It's very confusing, so I just wanted to make sure that I had the right term. And so, while talking about my personal struggles with mental illness, even though I have the formal diagnosis and whatnot, I'd still like to just, say, this might not be my final diagnosis. It might be something different, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to define schizophrenia here. I'm not trying to make advancements in the field of psychiatry or pathopsychology, as it were. I just want to vent. No, and, not in the complain way, but in the, I really need to purge these negative feelings, as I mentioned earlier, and I really didn't know where to start, because, I don't get the chance to talk about my symptoms with most people, and, I'm very thankful to the friends that I have that I feel secure sharing, my impressions, my day-to-day life, what I go through, and, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to do it. all that I knew was that, well, this needs to be expelled from you. This needs to get out, and it needs to get out fast because it's going to consume you from the inside if it doesn't. And a while back, I first thought about, maybe talking about my experience in the form of YouTube videos, YouTube vlogs, because I'd seen a lot of people, just plugging up their webcams and talking about how they felt, and I thought, wow, this is interesting to hear. This is great stuff. This is great insight, into mental illness, and some of the videos that I watched. In some of the videos that I watched, the vloggers made great points, and as I said, offered great insight into their experience with mental illness, and I thought, wow, that looks really relieving. I should do that. But I felt profoundly unsafe about doing such a thing. I thought that someone out there, not someone actually, that everyone out there who would get to see, me in front of my iPhone talking about my symptoms would instantly expose me as a fraud, as a complete liar, and that I'd get hordes of comments about how it's me making it all up, how I'm just some grand narcissist with delusions of grandeur, and that it's nonsensical. It's completely nonsensical. I managed to convince myself to do it, and it sucks. It really sucks feeling that way, because it not only makes you feel bad about yourself, but it makes you feel bad about the things that you endure. And sometimes I feel like what I'm going through, I'm not really going through, for lack of a better way to describe it. Feels like if I hear a voice, my brain will just tell me, like, no, you did not just hear a voice, you're making it up. And it gets tough to deal with, because I don't know sometimes it feels like I don't know what I'm going through and what is just in my head, when actually I'm just, in my head I mean and I'm not making any of it up. I'm lucid in this moment. I know that I'm not making any of it up. It's all really happening, and I might not be able to word it in the most precise or descriptive way possible, but I am really going through it, and however I exteriorize it, that doesn't change the internal experience that I have. I'm not making it up, okay? There are patterns. It's been going on for a long time. All of this to say that it's real. It's happening, and I know it. But sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, it feels like I'm just lying. And sometimes I hear myself talking, I hear the words coming out of my mouth when I talk to someone else about my condition, and there's a voice that tells me that you're making it up, you're just a sham, you're a fraud, and it fucking hurts. And making this video, which will probably be the first of many, regardless. How many people actually watch those videos, in plural, sorry. Making this, it will actually feel extremely relieving and will help my the ongoing process of recovery and improvement, you know, not just in terms of psychiatry, but as a person also. I feel like I gained insight into what I go through, because it's very distressing to go through an internal experience and really not know what to word it as, and to not have any outside, source of comfort, and by that I mean not have anyone to relate to, because when I hear other people my age, or even older people, just people in general, but especially people my age, because of course my friends are mostly my age, talking about their personal experiences, even when the topic, when it revolves around their experience with mental illness, I don't relate, or relate on a minimal level, and it fucks with me. It really fucks with me, because I feel like, wow, all these people are going through this, and I don't relate to that at all. I feel very, very far away from them. I don't feel like I'm connecting with them, and the more aware I grow of the the, the vast distance that separates the average person from me, really makes it hard to connect, and this isn't something that I exteriorize. I fake it socially, not in the I pretend to be someone else way, but in the, like, even though I don't understand what you're going through, I show empathy. I try to show as much empathy and compassion as possible, and try to understand what you're going through. So yeah, I am beating around the bush. I do not even remember what I initially wanted to talk about, aside from my general experiences with mental illness. Where to start? The emptiness. I feel empty. Not empty as in psychopathic, wildly deranged serial killer who feels no compassion or remorse. It's I feel so many things at the same time that it feels like I don't feel anything, or I feel so many things at the same time that it feels like I can't control any of it, or don't understand any of it, and it's very distressing. I have a really, really hard time identifying my emotions. Sometimes I can only describe my internal states using very, very vague terms, like I feel sad, or I feel happy. And while most of the time I try not to think too much about it and chalk it up to mental illness and something that will improve over time, it's weird. When I see other people saying I'm frustrated, or see other people say I'm upset, or see other people say that they're disappointed after, like, going through something, like immediately after going something, actually, and seeing them being able to identify, or just put a name, label what they're going through is fucked up. I mean, I can't do it. No matter how hard I try, sometimes I just can't. I don't know what I'm going through. And all is only revealed like 2 weeks later. I'll realize like, oh, wow, I was really frustrated during that period. Or I was disappointed in myself. You know, although both those times, you know, I would have felt it in the moment. I would have felt angry or discontented. Is it discontent or discontented? I'm gonna look it up. I obsessively look up. Okay, there we go. Discontented. That's a character flaw that I have. I look up things too much, like to make sure that I'm not misusing words or using them in a context that's inappropriate. I always look it up. Sometimes I just rewrite entire messages because I'm not sure. I'm just not sure of if my use of a certain term is proper or my use of a certain concept is, relevant. And it makes me really anxious. And I feel like at any second someone is going to expose me as a complete fraud, and it sucks. It sucks. I feel so far away from other people, even when I very closely interact with them. My friendships, even though I can clearly see that, the other person in the relationship, is content with the way things are and things shares a genuine link or connection with me. It's not reciprocated like 95% of the time, and I fake that it is. I just pretend, and to not make things awkward, because in a casual conversation saying, wow, I don't relate to what you're saying at all, it kind of goes against the grain a little, and fucks up the pace, and people aren't used to that, so I try not to do it unless I'm with people I'm excessively comfortable with, and thank God. There are quite a good number of those in my life. Even people who aren't all that well versed on mental health in general, who just don't really understand what I go through on a daily basis or whatever. There are a lot of people who just really listen when I tell them about how I feel. And even though they don't have the knowledge to really understand it in holistically, they empathize and they show compassion. And if I'm making a request, if I'm asking them, could you please pay more attention to this when we're together? I mean, X behavior that you have really makes me anxious or whatever. I really appreciate when people just, even though they don't fully understand why I'm asking that of them, I really appreciate when people just say, okay, well, if it makes you anxious, I guess I'll just pay attention to it. And, I try to do the same as much as I can for them as well. If someone asks the exact same thing of me, I will gladly do it and apologize for any just Just wait a second. Misgivings. No, that does not. See there, I was thinking of using the word misgiving, but I realized after looking it up that it wasn't intended to be used in that particular context. I'm going to try to find a better word. Apologize for past mistakes or whatever related to what they've just asked me. If someone asks me not to do X thing because that makes them anxious, well, then I'll apologize for any time I can think of where I did do X thing without realizing that it was making them anxious, if that makes sense. And where was I going with this initially? Yeah. I have a lot of good people in my life, and I'm extremely thankful. But with most people, there's just such a gap. And it doesn't look like that to them. I put on the face of a completely normal, well-adjusted, morally sound individual, and people just don't notice that I'm not like them at all, and it kind of fucks with me. Like I was saying earlier, I have like quasi-delusions of, or even, I'd go as far as call them complete delusions of lying, of not actually going through the things that I'm going through and making it all up, and it doesn't help. It really doesn't help. It makes it difficult for me to keep believing in the authenticity and the importance of my internal experiences, because externally, when I'm in a social situation, I just don't look that off, even though I really feel like I'm very far apart from most people I'm with. And it fucks with me. It really fucks with me. I'd like for just people to point out, like, oh, you look anxious, or, oh, you're fidgeting with your hands a lot. And not just dismiss it as, like, oh, he's got ADHD, which I do have also. Or, oh, he's just feeling slightly stressed about something, better not mention it. I'd really like, for people to just mention it more, acknowledge it more, and not chalk it up to normal people stuff. Because even though it might seem like it's the reflection of normal internal experiences, they're the repressed externalizations of highly abnormal internal experiences. And it would be great, honestly, if people just, noticed. But, I guess that speaks to my acting abilities, my pretending abilities. I can put myself in the skin of, well, pretty much anyone. And by that I don't mean that, like, I can really pretend to be someone else, but it's just that I can adjust my personality to just, fit with the people I'm with. If I'm with hardcore punk fans, well, then I am going to just adjust and talk about things that will interest them more than I would with just regular folk. And that goes for any type of person or any type of personality. And due to that, I really, really notice slight really small things that people do, small, things, parts of their personalities that just really, when you put them in the context of other things, tell a whole lot about how they are as a person, how good of a person they are. And honestly, after seeing someone 2 or 3 times, most of the time I can tell if that person is really what he's trying to look like. I can tell if people are just making up. They're not really making up, but are really being transparent as to their intentions and whatnot. And it fucks with me how many people are so blissfully unaware of how terrible they actually are. Because, and I don't want to complain, but, I'm just going to say it, because I feel like I'm whining, but really I'm not. I'm talking about my experience, and being forthcoming, and this is how I feel it, so I'm going to just put it out there, even though I feel like I'm complaining. I am acutely aware of what I do and the implications of what I do when it comes to other people. And when I do something immoral, I'm aware of it. I can mess up and not realize it, or do something that hurts someone, indirectly, or that, or unwarranted, and not realize it. But I mean, when I do something, when that happens, it's just, the intention wasn't wrong. The intention wasn't bad. It's just that the execution was off, the timing was off, or whatever. That happens to everyone, and I can forgive myself for those little mistakes. But when I do something wrong, I can tell, and I know that I've done something wrong, and even for the slightest things, if I'm on the bus and an elderly person walks in and I'm feeling really anxious and just I'm at the front of the bus and squirming in my seat, thinking about the looks that the person sitting next to me gave me, or if I don't have earphones on and I'm just feeling anxious because, well, there's a lot of people on the bus and that makes me anxious, and I don't make way for her to seat herself, or, afterwards, after getting off the bus, it's still on my mind, and I'm thinking, wow, maybe I should have, I probably should have, stood up and given them my place. And sometimes the smallest things fuck with me, and most people aren't like that. Like, if they realize that they've done something wrong, they find an excuse internally, and they just chalk it up to like, say if they were in the same situation, like, oh well, there were other seats available, or any other bullshit excuse. And some people in my life, not in my life, but some people that I know, I think of as really rotten morally, aren't perceived that way by the people surrounding me, and I just can't fathom. Like, being this fucking unaware of the implications of what you're doing, and it makes me feel like this isn't the most cliched expression on the planet, but in those moments I feel like I don't have faith in the world anymore, and that is exceptionally stupid. That is an exceptionally stupid thing to say, and it's pointless, but whatever. I feel like I just don't believe that there is some form of karma or of system of intrinsic mystical sort of system, and this sounds very bizarre, but you'll get what I mean. A system that rewards good actions with good results, or bad actions with bad results, and by good or bad I mean morally speaking. And I feel like that doesn't exist, and the world is intrinsically rotten. And I know that's not true. The world is a mixed bag of great and bad and rotten, terrible, and wonderful and fantastic. It's a mixed bag, and it might feel like at times like there's more wrong than right, but I think objectively that, not objectively because this can't be like quantified, but I think that that's just an illusion, and really it's that we the negative stuff comes to the forefront of our collective consciousness more, because it's more blatant, it's more obvious, it's frustrating, it evokes stuff, while the positive stuff just it elicits more subdued reactions. You're more likely to get angry at someone in your entourage for just being an asshole than you are to actually be grateful for someone doing something very slight, but that required them to, I don't know, sacrifice something, or just make an effort, Anyway, where I'm trying to get to is that we perceive negative stuff more than the positive stuff, and the negative stuff we see tends to feel more inflated in nature, and just tends to add up and take up more space than it really does, while the good stuff, we kind of just, I don't know, not ironically, we don't think about it too much, and wow, I am so incredibly scattered. I thought I'd just be very clear-headed while making this video, and I'm really not. I'm not feeling anxious or anything. I haven't prepared anything. So wow, I realize how much I've overestimated my ability to improvise and go at length about a particular subject, or even subtopic of my main subject. But I think I feel decent about making this. I feel honest right now, and I rarely get to feel that I'm actually being forthcoming. I feel like I've been very stream of consciousness with this rant, if you can really call it a rant. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say at the moment, and I'll probably get some more inspiration really soon, probably today. But for the moment, I don't feel compelled to bring up any particular topic. So I think I'm just gonna put an end to this. To those of you that did watch, I'm grateful for you taking the time to listen to what I have to say, and I hope you have a great day. And well, that's pretty much it.